when you flip your fuselage upside down, it's always good to put something under the center of it here so you're not squashing down your parts like your F7 piece down here. You don't want to break that off, or if you're a fan, you don't want to be putting any pressure on that. Alright, what I'm about to show you here is we want to get our tail wheel assembly down inside this piece right here, but we want it to fit perfect. We have our rudder on, I have the plane upside down, and the fin is where the back part of the 1/4 piece is going to be sitting right flush against the back part of the wall with the rudder in it. So anyway, what we want to do is we want to come up with the measurement for this here. So an easy way to do that without having to measure everything. I'm just going to put the template right up there and slide it up right where this former is, or the stick is, and make a little mark. And remember, everything's delicate because it's just balancing on everything. And then just kind of hold it together with the front part of your finger. And mark the top part. And there you have it. It's as easy as that. And you just get a straight edge and place that down for a second so you can see. I'm going to make that mark. Now off the flange sheet, you just want to measure that piece, and we got it at 1 1/4 inches. So now from both sides of the bottom, I'm just going to come up 1 1/4 inches. Mark there. 1 1/4 inches. Mark there. Mark it across the edges. And now I'm just going to cut this piece right out. You can go right ahead and slice the whole thing down if you want, which might not be a bad idea because I'm going to use a second piece over the top part, and I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, now I've cut out my piece for inside there, and it needs to be epoxied. So I'm just going to go ahead and take my epoxy. I got 3 pieces that I'm going to epoxy, so right now I'm just going to do 2 of them. Just want an equal mixture of epoxy. Remember, mix this is 5-minute epoxy, so it only takes 5 minutes. But in this process, I'm just going to give a little dab of glue on both sides here of the piece I'm going to put inside there. And then I'm going to switch the clamps from the rudder on over. I just use a Q-tip basically. They're disposable. Cut one end off. Just going to take my piece and coat both sides. Just a little bit because it's going to smear. You don't want any on the tail part of it because we don't want to glue the fin in yet. So now we're just going to take it where the opening is wide, and we're going to slide it right up. If you can get it inside before it comes to the top part, you're good to go. And then I'm going to slide it right to where it needs to be. And that's where we want it. So I'm going to make a little mark on the bottom here. And then I'm going to hold this together and take off the rudder and the fin. And now I can access inside there a little better. And I want to make that flush with the top. So I'm just going to hold my hand over there. And while holding the sides together because it'll drop right in, and I'm going to pull the nose up. And there it is. Our tail wheel assembly is in. And it'll be snug to the back. And I'm just going to take a clamp and hold the tail of the fuselage together with a clamp. Might even do 2, but first I want to wipe the excess glue off, actually, now that my piece is made. I'll wipe that glue glue off of there. So now I'm just going to replace my hand. You've got 5 minutes to work. So as long as everything's level, you're good to go. Nice and flush. And I got no bumps protruding out of there. So clamp it there. And clamps work great. Or even tape, just a nice tight fit. You don't want it to buckle or curl though. And there we go. We'll give that 5 minutes to dry. Okay, now you can see that my pieces in there are removed the clamps. Now I'm going to glue another piece over the top of that. That'll go right to the very end of the tail. And that'll be on the outside instead of the inside of the frame. I'm just mixing up some epoxy. So now I'm just going to smear right on the plate itself. The one plate that I put in, that is. Smear some epoxy right on there. I'm going to go right to the edge of the tail, and I'm going to try and keep it out of the middle there, because we don't want glue in there, because we're going to have to put the rudder back in there, the fin back in there. And right to the edges, just twirl it up, make it a little rough. And then put this piece on. Like I said, this piece goes right to the very edge. I'm going to apply a little bit of light pressure there, squish it around. Make it flush with the very back, and make it flush with both sides. Have the towel on hand just to take any excess off. And there we go. So now that piece is going to go on there and dry. It's always good if you can weight something down for this, but I don't think I'm going to be able to use a zap bottle. There we go. Just something. A little bit of pressure applied on the pieces of wood that you're gluing is always a good thing. Now I got some excess glue. Pretty good. Not so much where the excess is all over the place, because I do want to be able to glue other parts, so I'll just take it straight. So now F-4A. Just want to make that flush at the front here. Just use your finger, clear off that excess glue. Looks good in there, and you want it to flush with the front. So flush with the former F4 and flush with the front. Wipe my finger with that. And while I got glue dry in here, or glue, excess glue, I'm going to pop out the wing hold down plate. Let's give it some good glue. Like I said, this is going to hold the wing plate down. I can feel the glue heating up and drying already. So I'll give it some extra right there. Left and right. I'm going to put it inside the fuselage so it, if anywhere it smears inside the fuselage, not outside. Alright, that didn't work because it was behind my plate. There we go. And you want this to be perfectly flush with the outsides of your wing saddle. And press right up against the back of former F4, or the front of F4. Alright. Just go back and check everything, make sure everything's touching and flush to where you want it. You can always go back and sand anything later. It's even glue, so don't sweat too much over it. I'd rather not have to try and sand through epoxy, but it can be done. And if you're using epoxy on something you want to sand, then you can just add some talcum powder or baby powder to it, and that'll help you be able to sand it nice and easy. So there we go. Right now we have the wing plate, F-4A, and I think I could take that off, but sure, that's dry, and it is. So there we go.